massive university to like sign off and say that this was real snail repellent, and we actually almost got it in King's Plant Barn, but it was an awesome experience. I wish I took it like less as an academic exercise. Young Enterprise was kind of like, you know, you tick this box, you do the annual report, you make it look good, you get the badge type thing. I really wish I was a bit more aggressive and was like, how do I grow a business and make money and not waste my time at uni? So that was school. Then I went to uni and tried to go semi-pro at rugby. Didn't make that either. And then straight out of uni started a company. It was an online sports commentary business. I raised some funds in New Zealand. I was one of the youngest people to raise funds, angel funds in New Zealand. Then I crapped out of that business. I was sort of at the stage where like the pressure as a young founder was too much, having raised money, not knowing what I'm doing, not surrounding good founders around me. That business has gone on and done pretty well. It's probably raised, I think, 3-4 million, still exists today with some old boys. But you know, didn't handle well at the time, so something around young founders and being able to handle mental health around that, I've always got a keen interest in. After that, I went to New York, went there for 4 years, joined a tech company there that went on the wild ride of growth, raised a couple $100 million with that company, sort of became an expert in my field, gave advice to the White House, got to go on Wall Street and, you know, speak on TV, and then that company got acquired earlier last year. So I was, you know, a shareholder, not a big one on that, so managed to get the first acquisition as a company. And then I had left that company to go traveling for a year. I was like, you know, I'm 28, I wanted to do my OE. I went to the States to do my OE. It worked too hard, COVID hit, I was back home in New Zealand, and started my current business, which is called Utter. And so, UTTR, so without the E, because it's too expensive to get the E. But UTTR stands for up and to the right. And the idea is what we do is we are a fractional team, so we partner or integrate ourselves within high growth tech companies to help them grow up and to the right. So day in and day out, I work with tech companies, all US based, a couple in Europe actually, to help them, you know, grow their business, their product. On the large end, we've got well-known companies like Reddit as a client, ClickUp as a client, a couple of companies that will go public, and then we have a lot of earlier stage stuff as well. So live and breathe, like the marketing, the growth motion that comes with tech companies, and they raise a stupid amount of money, and they're always like, how do we go use this money? Does that make sense around what I do there? Any questions on that? Cool. So yeah, that's a bit about what I do and what I've done, I guess, today. And today I was going to focus on like how to start, almost like the plan and how I approach it. And I'll probably use the whiteboard. I can't really, unless someone else wants to write for me. No?
No.
I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at a nominee.
It's called multitasking, Sam.
Well, it's more my messy handwriting. You know, you type all day and you sit on Zoom and you don't have to write. So I'm going to talk about, I guess, the 5 steps that I would approach very early on. And it's to give context to my business. I really didn't want to do the business that Utter is today. Like, I was trying to do something else. I'm actually still trying to do something else. And I set up this like fractional team business to make money. And then I kept making money off it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to keep doing this because, you know, we're turning over a significant amount of money there. And the business that I wanted to do and thought I would do and planned nicely isn't the business that has gone there as well there. So I'll sort of talk about that early journey there that I had and how it ended up, you know, the path it did there. So number one thing I would say early on is just get shit done. It's getting off the laptop, it's getting off the paper, it's getting out there, and it's validating, and it's moving as fast as possible. I think that is the key. It's you can't think of a business in your head and it's a eureka moment. Like, no one does that. Everything or every business is a case of like going out there, validating, and coming back and getting answers and iterating on it. So but you got to start somewhere. So the first thing I always do is I do a one-pager, and when I come up with a business idea, and it's a one-pager that should be able to capture the whole strategy on it. Any more than one page, I think like you're overthinking it there. And the way in which I approach it is what's called, I write a story related to it. Has anyone heard of the story arc?
It's the point at the story just before the climax, isn't it? It's just when you get to that kind of top of it.
Not quite. Not quite. Know that?
Is it the basically the whole kind of story from the build up to the climax to the conclusion, let's say?
Kind of, yeah. So the story arc is the number one thing I learned in marketing, and again, like get paid to do it now. And I teach this to every founder. I do. I use it and apply it for business strategy because I'm a marketer. So this is like a double-edged point I'm going to say. It's one, how you should do your marketing and how you should pitch, and two, how you do the one page for your strategy. So every single book, every single movie that it's going to ruin it from now on follows the story arc. A character has a problem, meets a guide, gives them a plan, results in success or failure. Character has a problem, meets a guide, gives them a plan, success or failure. Harry Potter, parents' guide, meets Dumbledore, Dumbledore gives them a plan, 7 books worth, results in success around, him killing Voldemort. What's another good? Someone else give me a book or a movie.
Maze Runner.
I don't know. Let's
okay.
go. Who's the character?
Character is a guy called Thomas.
Thomas?
No relation to me.
No.
Thomas, and he wakes up when the world, he wakes up in a maze.
Yeah.
And then he has to try and get out.
This is the book. It is the number one book you should read.
And he's got to get out of the maze.
Yeah.
And meets a guy called Newt. And then they get out.
There you go.
Stole the whole
You stole your lesson,
thing for next term.
so I'm getting ahead of it. But honestly, what I reckon the single best book I've read on marketing, and how he gets it. But anyone else got one other one they want to give without a book they're reading, a famous one, their own life?
Not yet.
Who wants to do Lord of the Rings?
Come on, it's all watch
Who hasn't watched Lord of the Rings?
One might.
What someone say Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Who wants to do Wolf of Wall Street?
Jordan Belford meets the guy that introduced him.
What's the problem?
He's poor.
He's too poor.
Yeah.
He's too poor. He wants to make money. He rips off people.
He's too poor. He meets Matthew McConaughey. Margot Robbie. Yeah.
that was a different kind of guy.
Similar to the story.
Meets Matthew McConaughey, introduces him to the penny stocks, and then he rips off people.
Yeah.
Money.
Makes him,
And then he gets
he
arrested.
gets successful and then turns to failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's like a merit answer. But yeah. Who wants to do one for their business? Should we do the date
Yeah.
one?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So take me. I'm your character. A partner, a year and a half, looking to keep it interesting.
I guess a busy couple, their problem is they can't be bothered or they don't have time to find a date that is like memorable. What's
The guide.
oh,
So the guide is you in this
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Why should I trust you and your dating advice?
I've never actually been on a date, so.
But see, this is where like the power of mind. It's like you've organised more dates than any single person could.
Oh,
Is where you're
yeah.
going to get to. Like you understand dates, and you've got feedback around.
You don't launch into
You did the opposite. That's what you don't. Guys. And then
How to fail marketing.
you give us a plan,
Yeah.
which is
A plan is literally like a plan of the day.
in this case it's a plan.
And
Yeah.
then they are a happy customer.
But the success in this case tied to the problem. Problem is we're not busy, we don't have fun, we don't have a good day. The solution is we have a great date, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. But so this is how I think of a one-pager. So if you're thinking of any issues or you're trying to solve something, I know it's a marketing concept, but I think you can apply it here. Like, who is the person? What is their problem? The guide is like, where can you build trust, build empathy with them, and then what is your solution to it? What is your plan and solution to it? And you start off with that, and then you can iterate over time. Should I write it up or not?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, read it to me. As
Problem.
and
Guide meets the guide.
Science appeal.
and
Guide is in the guide.
that
Results in success or failure.
I swear, like we got clients that paying us, 15 grand a month, and all I do 1 month is just nailing this for their business.
We could live these paper.
Well, no, we have I give you, I want a Word doc.
With the wrong business.
Yeah, and it sounds, the more advanced businesses get, they lose sight of the basics, and it's like, you do the basics well, you're gonna, keeping things simple and focused, you're gonna go on a win. So that's how I write it down. My business, I'm like, okay, character, high growth tech companies have a problem. They can't hire fast enough in the US because the job market's crazy. It's more competitive because everyone's getting funding at the moment. And earlier stage companies can't hire 3 or 4 people with expertise, but they need their expertise. So meets a guide. Me and my company, we've worked with the leading tech companies in the US. I have a background in growing out a team myself. Gives them a plan. Like, here's our fractional team. We'll work across different areas. Here's how we grow companies, and results in success. So we push them in place. They start getting generating more revenue from marketing. That's how I do one pager in that regard, and that's really just my concept. When you're talking about the first question, which I think was, what was it? The diagram, trying to put everything together. I think if you nail this first, everything else falls into place.
All right.
Make sense?
Thank you. Yeah.
Any questions on that? So
So are you the guide?
you're the guy, and
He's the customer. Or
well, if it's my business,
Like if-
the company's the guy.
Yeah.
And number one mistake businesses make, time and time again. If there's one thing you take from this, is that they think that they are the character of their story. The character of the story is the customer. So whenever you pitch and someone pitches to you, if you start with talking about your customer and the problem, like if I pitch, I always go like, usually, I didn't actually do it today to be fair, but it's like, hey, high growth tech companies can't hire fast enough, nor find enough expertise. It gives context to everything else you're going to say. You start off with like start off with like, hey, most people care about fish and the environment, yet they don't realize that they're throwing back and killing 30% of fish. Sets up the context and the power for everything you do after. Easiest hack and way when you pitch, marketing, start with the problem, makes it easier to describe the solution.
if the customer fails, how do you know if it's your bad plan or just them?
So I think the failure here is in marketing, I'll touch on it, is like if they don't, the way we do it, is if they don't do it. So there's 2 types of marketing. There's like, I'm gonna market aspirational marketing. If you take my date plan, you're gonna have a great night, your relationship's gonna be great. And then there's fear marketing. If you don't do it, your relationship's gonna stay on the rocks, and not improve, and you're gonna risk your relationship. That's where I think like the success or failure is tied to that. In terms of whether I think whether or not, the question of being whether or not your product has success or failure, there's probably a whole lesson around, is it the brand promise and did you deliver on it? There's a lot of ways to measure that we can talk about, but for most of our clients would do customer surveys, CSAT scores, which NPS scores, Net Promoter, which are ideas of numbering how much you would promote it to other people. So, and then I think an easy way to do it is word of mouth coefficient. It's the idea of how many people that use your product tell other people. And if that works, then you're onto magic. But not everyone's going to have success, so you shouldn't worry about the minority that's it helps you refine who you should go after, who's your character. That answers.
Yeah.
Okay, part 2, pretty simple. Desktop research. So it sounds like most people have gone through this phase. So I might not have to go over this too much. Push on.
Yeah, we've done a lot of desktop research.
You've done a lot of desktop research. I'll add this, I'll just validate it. So in uni, I worked as an export consultant. Worked with a lot of different companies going into foreign markets. First thing we do, just piles and piles of desktop research. One doc, you just dump in anything you see around the market, put it in. I always have a brainstorming doc. No one else needs to see it, but it's just you understanding the market, the customer, everything related to it.
And so your timesheets each week are almost a record of that. And so when I said your action points, that's what you're doing from that research. Maybe that research was complete rubbish, you don't need to revisit it. But if you are, some of you are filling in really detailed timesheets, so hopefully you're keeping those, and you can actually go back to them. Okay, so you're getting some work out of that desktop.
How long should you be spending on desktop research?
Tough. I think it's until you feel like you've got a comprehension to inform this. So the desktop research, so you've started off with this, it's like, this is my hypothesis on the market in the solution. Desktop research is to reinforce this. And so you do this, does it change the plan? Like you can make tweaks to it. And once you feel like, okay, I've done enough research online that this is a valid concept, you move on to the next.
Right.
So like in the case of, say, the consulting, the fractional teamwork I do, I sort of didn't have to do desktop research, but if I was, I'd be like looking at like jobs, are people hiring? Like, pretty quickly you'd move on and you'd mark that you know this is with a degree of confidence.
Right, so you relate it back to the one pager.
I would type, yeah, like, is this governing document, does this make, is this sound, or do we need to change things based on it?
Right.
I think the part I would say is that throughout the research, the point of like perfect decisions doesn't exist. Like you're not trying to be perfect at anything. It's just it's like a tick box that you don't waste time in the next step.
Okay.
The goal is how quickly can you get through,
Yeah.
but you don't want to skip in case you waste time in the next one. So it's a confidence thing. You do it, and trust your hunch, move on.
Yeah.
So the next stage is it's called secondary research, and it sounds like quite a few people are interviewing customers. At this stage, raise your hand if you're interviewing customers so far. Okay. Yeah, raise your hand if you get really nervous about it and kind of shy. Yeah. I used to hate it. I still kind of do. When I was at this export consulting firm, we got the weirdest companies coming to us. We had one which was a bedwetting protector for children and old people, and they were trying to sell to the UK. And so I had to call up into the UK and speak to like mums and be like, okay, like how does your child wet the bed? It was like 19, 20 at the time. I kept stuffing up the time zone, like call people at 5 a.m. and they wake up and just swear at me. Did one to Hong Kong where we're trying to sell to pharmaceutical managers, and they have gatekeepers. You know what a gatekeeper is? Like a secretary.
Yeah.
So you'd have to lie and be like, hey, John, I saw him at the conference, he was expecting me to call back, like, need to speak to him, you'd get through it, they'd be like, who are you? And you'd be like, I just need 5 minutes. It was always hell. And I think I've got like better at it now, because it's a product, I like what I do, it's not like bedwetting and sausages and pharmaceutical stuff, it's like an industry that I like and I know it. But this is one that makes a huge difference. And the thing that I have learned the most from this is keep it short and sharp. Ask a question around like areas here, the problem, understand who they are, understand the problem, what the plan and what they're looking for in terms of success. And you're using it to validate this. So if I'm interviewing, it's like, okay, like tell me a bit about your business, who you are, like day to day, problems, like what, related to the particular area, like tell me about your relationship, or maybe not, that's the program. Tell me about your fishing, and or tell me about like home issues and what chores you can't get to or what you need help with. And you're doing it to build out the steps in here. And the best thing I got told was whenever you ask a question, ask them to give, quote it, and then ask them to rank each thing out of 10. And because what happens when you give people feedback is it's so subjective, and the way in which people speak back to you, like Kiwis are really bad at it. We're really bad at we don't want to give bad advice. We'll say something and it won't be negative, but it might actually be negative. It's the whole nah thing where it's like, okay, what do you actually mean? And so if you get someone to rate something out of 10, you get an idea of where they care about. And you want 8, 9s, and 10s. If it's not 8, 9s, and 10s, you got to move to the next question and revalidate around that. Once you get a few groupings of 8, 9, and 10s around certain things, you're on to something. You've found a cohort of people that are interested in what you're doing, you just need to find more of them. Does that make sense? And so, this part here, when you're interviewing people on the secondary research, you don't have to have like a product, you can just talk about the concept, or you can mock up things. So, example, when I talked about the other business that I wanted to do, that I'm building, I have a team of 5 in Ukraine that are working on, it's like a conversion intelligence tool for websites. So you can think of it like marketing analytics. And the first way I tried to validate it was I just got a PowerPoint, like I drew fake graphs on it, and I put it in front of them. I was like, if I could get you this data for your business, how valuable would this be? And people were like 5, 6, then some other slides would be like 9. And I go slide by slide until I was asking people and they saw 3 slides and they're like 9, 10, 10. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to build for your business. And so if you can mock it up in the idea, like if it was, again, the date concept, if it was like, here's a package to a restaurant, here's an activity type concept, like how would you rate each of these, then it's going to give you a much more validation around and a ranking around how people would prioritize them. Make sense?
Yeah.
Questions on that? Does someone want to give an example?
So secondary research, not competitors, but also buyers?
So I think of secondary research, and maybe this is like a different nomenclature, is when I talk to people. Desktop primary research is like I sit behind my computer. Secondary research is like speaking to people. But you could ask them about competitors when you're trying to establish what they currently do.
Or your competitor analysis could be a completely different
Yeah,
part of it.
like maybe it fits under here.
Okay.
Like this is sort of desktop research understanding where the market is.
So with secondary research, are you trying to sell something then, or?
No. This is all to reinforce this. The great thing is, if people like it, they'll become your first customers. It's like my whole list of people that I'm going to try and sell the product to are the people that I understand their problem really well. Like they've given me 15, 20, 30 hours of their time, and I understand them inside and out. Like I'm going to try and sell to them eventually. But to start with, it's like, hey, I'm just trying to understand, this is how I say it. I'm like, hey, can I borrow a bit of your time? Like, I don't want to waste my time trying to build a business that no one else wants. I respect your opinion. I heard from XYZ that you're great at this. Be 15 minutes. I just want to show you some things. You rank them out of 10. Please be as honest as possible because, lying to me does me no disservice. I have no emotion in this. I just want to know your objective opinion. And then people go through it, and you keep contact with those people. You bring them on the journey.
Going back to that video that we watched about how to set up your, chat through the 4 acts, and then the other one we watched the other day, sorts of questions to ask, past and present, not future. Yeah. I think possibly what's confused them ever so slightly, Sam, is we talk about desktop or sitting at, we call that secondary research. And when you go out talking to people, we call that primary because you're collecting it, but it's
Same thing.
it's just
Literally the opposite is out. Yeah, we used to call primary was behind desktop, and secondary was speaking to people. But
yeah, because you do the desktop first,
yeah,
and then you go and speak.
yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Is anyone still confused about the primary secondary thing? One's you sit behind a computer. One is you go speak to people.
And you do all the computer sitting first because that's where you start really, really broad. You start to narrow, and then you can go out and work out what you actually need to ask and find out.
Yeah. And this thing, like I said, it sucks. Even as you get bigger and you get more impressive in your career, like asking people for the time and being confident around it, even when you're not trying to sell, is hard. I reckon it's harder than selling. Like I would rather try and cold call and sell someone something than cold call this, because it's like there's a point to my call. But you see it time and time again. You see it like with good founders, more experience, and some of my mentors. Like when they're always looking for an opportunity, you can see them through their head, how they think through the person and the questions they want to ask them. So there's only one way to get good at this, and it's just you just got to do it. You're gonna make mistakes. You just got to get on the phone, call people, get people to start answering questions, and then iterate on it, learn from it. But yeah, there's, like I said, if you do this, this, and this, so far these three, this here is gonna be worth, I would say, like maybe 50x these two in terms of the value from it.
How many like customers should you be looking to target?
It depends on, I think the type of feedback you get. It's the grouping of it. So what do they say? If you speak to, what is the number, 30 people, 20 or 30, right? You got like a 95% statistical significance. So I think, 20 is ample. Once you get to like, start with 10 though. At 20, you're like, oh my God, I'm never gonna finish. Just start with 10, get to 10, take some learnings, grow from there. But it doesn't have to be that many to start to see patterns. Like if you got 10 in a row and it was like 9 9s, or you got 5 in a row, then I'd just be like, you good type thing. But if you keep getting ones, if maybe you're interviewing the wrong people or not the right solution. I think that's also the other thing. Like it should help you understand, again, refine not just what you're doing here, but also like who's the right person to sell to. Like if you keep interviewing people that don't care about the environment and want to destroy every fish around, like they're not your target person. If you've got people that already have like people that do lawn mowing, people at home, and everything related to that, and like probably need to interview people that don't have that set up already.
You have to do something.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go out and talk to somebody in person or on the phone. Okay, you can't not do it.
It's tough. I speak to like people like my age, older, almost. I say the same thing. Like at some point you got to do it, and then they come back in 2 weeks. People I mentor, like, did you do it? I was like, no. I was like, oh. He's like, I interviewed my mom's friend. I interviewed 2 people. And you're like, come on, just like, it only has to be you go to all your friends and like find me one other person. That's it. Like it's just, at some point you got to do it. The longer you leave it, it's just gonna. And like the way I do it is I have a Google sheet and I just have all the columns. I put the name there, the question, and just put it there, and I put a number next to it. I write qualitative notes. I try and record every conversation as well. So yeah, and ask them feedback on it. Okay, number 4. So who's past this stage? So if we just go, who's at number 1?
Well, technically, I guess you've kind of done that with your lead canvas.
Yeah.
You've put a lot of what you've said. So that's, they're due tomorrow. So most of us?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Who would say they're at 2?
We've all done
Okay.
a lot of it.
Most of us want an MVP.
We're done.
Yeah.
3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone else. So before I go to 4, anything else about stage 3, getting through it?
How do you know if you're getting fake documents?
I
How do
think
you know if you're getting fake information? Or like people saying, oh yeah, I tried that, and then when it actually comes time, they're like,
I think you never know if someone's going to buy it until they do. Like but I think the number situation is the best thing I've seen to help with that.
Do you reckon it's better to come up with an open-ended question, or what you kind of said where it's like a yes, no, or like a numerical answer?
I think it's better to go get the qualitative take. So like, okay, like I'm going to show you a mock-up, or like show you this. What is your reaction to it?
Yeah.
And then after that, you say, how would you rank this? Like did you know that fish go back to the ocean and most of them die because they touch them? They're like, what do you think about that? You give even you take it further, what do you think about fish safety or fish health? And then they say, how would you rank that out of 10? So it's sort of like a 2-part question.
Yeah, okay.
I guess what that guy was saying the other day, you ask a question and then dig in. So you ask more, and it could be open, or it could be, the rankings are good. Yeah. So I think the biggest issue for a lot now is, I guess, was going from 2 to 3, and it'll be next 3 to the next, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone want to guess what 4 is? MVP.
Was it actually?
Yeah.
Under
You got it all. You got it all. I didn't. I was like, I started writing it down. I was like, this feels a little too textbook. Who's at the MVP stage?
Well, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part about the MVP stage at the moment?
Building it.
Building it.
Say that, Dan?
Not making it too big.
Was that?
Not making it too big.
Yeah.
Oh, the bad.
Can we tell him?
Yeah.
So Dan had this idea that his MVP was he was going to go out and spend $8,000 on a van and then go away one weekend and see if he had a market for his product.
Yeah.
And I think the whole class kind of got along and talked him out of it.
Yeah.
It stressed me out a little bit. I thought you could probably rent a van for less than $8,000, or you could even go back a little bit further and get a landing page with So we're I think them working out what an MVP is.
Where's where?
Where do you limit it? Where do you stop?
Yeah. And I think this is where I can explain my 2 businesses, why one's gone well and one hasn't. And I think it came down to doing the MVP stage. So the first business was pretty straightforward, right? It started off just me consulting. Do people in the States care where I worked, when I interacted with them, did this concept of being able to do broad consulting and helping them grow their team, get feedback on that. It's pretty quickly, you can test it out with someone and improve upon it and see okay, they like what we do, they want to expand, can I hire people, you go from that. So the MVP in that, and it's not necessarily the greatest business, it's not too complicated, it's I just was will someone pay me straight away to give them advice? And that was within a week of trying to set this up. The other business, which was conversion intelligence, I've spent $200K building plus. Still haven't sent it to someone because I'm not quite happy with it. I've trusted on myself, and I'm probably going to spend that again this year, and it could be up being done. And that's because partly there's 2 sides of it. There's one where I just went to the market, I kept going back and forth, kept building it. Now I've got a company that does millions in turnover within a year. And then another one where I have let my pride get in the way and not just gone to market and tested and got feedback. And I kind of suck at building software, but and those are those 2 differences. The thing I wish I did, and now it's I feel like I've been too long building MVP, is I wish I just did the smallest thing. I just wish I solved one thing, really small, hacked it together as much as possible. And I kind of did it, and I was this is enough, and pulled out. But I wish I stuck on that and just tested it and improved upon it. And the hardest thing here for founders, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call yourselves, is dropping your pride and putting out something that is usable. And I think that's the thing, is it usable at this stage? Finding people that are okay, I accept it's an MVP in some regard, but and getting just some live feedback upon it. And again, you're just proving trying to prove this question of does it work. And then fast iteration on it. So it's more a question, I would say, it's more dangerous to wait too long for an MVP and to try and make it too good than it is to make it be too quick and it to be really bad.
But what about surrounding safety? If you get together too fast, will safety be kind of an issue?
Give me a scenario.
Building a new kind of bicycle. You hack it together really quickly. There's a potential that something could go wrong, and you could end up hurting.
Yeah, and I think this is. I get what you're saying. This is one where, a business, it's best not to talk in theories and hypotheticals, but exact examples, because I don't know, if
Right, okay, so
yeah.
I'll give you an example of my business.
Yeah.
So my business is surrounding food. If I hack together what I want to do with a lunchbox and some food, and I give it to somebody and they put it in a week in their fridge, and it turns out that the bread's got moldy and I get somebody sick, that's not really a good thing, is it?
Right, well, what's a food that you could start with that wouldn't make someone sick?
Fair enough. No, but it's supposed to be a lunch, right? If you put bread in the fridge, and it's a particular type of bread or something goes wrong, and I get somebody sick, that's not a good thing, is it?
No, of course not, but it's like, how can you like slightly change the concept early on and get some stats? So it's like, what's a food that isn't gonna make someone awfully sick? What's like, it needs to be in the fridge regularly, and like start around that.
Okay.
Like, I'll give you an idea. I love eating watermelon. Like, I eat watermelon all the time. And I put it in the fridge and like, I kind of like half bake it, like I like wrap it up, and then my girlfriend's like, oh, you haven't done it properly and stuff, and it's like, we're always battling over the watermelon and how to do it. Like, I cut it in half and just shove it in the fridge. It's like, but it always tastes so much better in the fridge, right? Like, I don't know what it is. I got a theory. It's like, it sucks or whatever. It's like, but then it's like, if the concept of watermelon, taking it and doing it around fruit or something, helps there. You like my watermelon analogy?
Apples are very much better out of the fridge as well.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's like if it's like, hey, it's a fruit pack. It's like, hey, kids are going to school. They're not eating enough fruit. It goes yuck by the end of the day because human stuff. It's like, get your kids to eat fruit and vegetables more often by having a lunchbox that makes it taste good.
Right.
Type thing. So that's where I'm like, it's kind of like rethink it, and it's not what you want it to be eventually, but it's a start.
Right.
Keeping things cold.
Thank you.
Keeping them quick.
Thomas, what if you just had a disclaimer, like, if you eat the wrong food and you die, then that's not. That's on you.
Yeah.
If you buy,
You can't rely on 6-year-olds to check if the bread is chicken is moldy.
There's no bread that's gonna go moldy.
No, my bread's in the fridge for weeks. It's got moldy, that's why. Anyway, I think we understand Thomas's point. I don't know that any of us are dealing with those products at the moment, but
I mean, like food and stuff, I get it. What's that?
Talk to your mentor.
All right.
Get them to help you out.
I think you just make like a landing page, and if people press buy after you express why it's new and different and innovative.
Yeah, and someone
also
buys,
working MVP.
get rid of liability. I mean, like, I worried the same thing when I was building the snail repellent thing. Like, I was like, does this thing actually work? Like, I was like, all right, like, the fancy guy signed it, and then it seemed to people tried it, and they're like, got rid of the other ones, and all these vegetables got to eat it. It was like, it didn't work to start with. It was just like, it's not the end of the world, but, I also didn't know coffee grounds were bad for dogs. And someone's dog ate it and got sick. It's like, it's like, shit, like, that wasn't great, but, shit happens.
And Thomas, if people know it's an MVP and it's not the finished product, they'll cut you some slack and realise that they're a test case customer and you will iterate from it.
So you need to provide customer discretion.
Yeah, but be honest with your customer as well. You're not selling them. You're not selling them the end.
No, I know.
Yeah.
If you told me exactly what you just said to everyone in this room, which was like, hey, like, don't be an idiot. If the food goes off, like, don't eat it.
Right.
It's like, most people would take that and it'll be fine. It's like, it's probably not going to go, but like any other product in the world. And I think that's the part, like, it's like, just don't overthink it. Like, it's easy to get caught in your head of like thinking of all the problems and stuff. It's like, just go do it. Like, this may never ever happen, right? And if it does, it's like big corporate companies it happens to. Like, you go to the supermarket and every other day there's a sign that asks for a recall. So, I wouldn't overthink it. And if you want to, just pivot slightly.
Like Polo, just got some info, booked a date, done. Got the feedback. Don't try and, all sorts of stuff could have gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You can't plan for everything.
Alright.
You're trying to get that initial feedback.
And you only need to do like one person with MVP, right? Or do you need to do multiple people?
It depends on I think it depends on what you're doing. I mean, no, an MVP can last quite a while, right? But you can sell your MVP. Like, you can get it out there if it's good enough, like, charge, like, did someone pay? Yeah, like, you can, why wouldn't you go do 10 more, of it?
Right.
So, I think it's, like, it could be different if, like, you've got to build it type thing, and you're like, I can't build multiple. But yeah, I'd try and do more than one.
Maybe your MVP, like Polo's, is the cheap version of it.
Yeah.
Number one, the customer knows it's the first and foremost, and for Polo, I don't think, did you make any money off it? What did it cost you?
$7, I made.
That's not sustainable, is it?
No, but if you
But
talk
he's-
for 100 people. it's
Exactly,
fine.
but he's worked out where the cost is, and so he's gonna do probably a few more of those at a cheaper price, so he modifies it, works out exact margins, etc. Yeah, goes to a few more people as introductory offer, then you go to that next level.
Sales
don't you?
over profit.
Yeah.
Like a little.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. I mean, I lose, like consulting sometimes, I'll sign a client and I know the first 3 months we'll lose money, but it's all about like lifetime value of the customer.
Fair enough.
Like I just,
Oh,
yeah, I would not even, I don't know, I don't wanna disrupt like what you get taught and if accountants come in, but I would not worry about margin or profit too much for quite a while. If you can prove this, you got a business. You'll make money at some point. It's just like, all it is tweaking the pricing and finding the customers that pay. Any other questions on this, thoughts, scenarios?
Oh, well, I just guess it's one of those processes where you probably have some problems that you thought would happen that you don't actually end up happening, but you probably also get things that you didn't think of that actually do end up popping up. Wouldn't it be true?
Yeah, I mean, like, pretty much everything you probably thought would happen wouldn't, and it is exactly what you said. But those are good things.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, if you come across friction in the process, it's good, because what it shows is that there's a problem here, and that someone, other people haven't solved this for a reason potentially.
Yeah, yeah.
So when it making mistakes, if you're not making mistakes, you're not coming across problems, you're definitely not doing it right. Like that's like embracing that idea. It's like, okay, where's the next mistake I can make? Where's the next problem I can have? Because then you're like, okay, that gives you a point of improvement. If it's all going too swimmingly, you probably got to ask a question like, why?
Yeah.
You're not challenging things. But if that was your question, if I understood it right. Yeah. And you can't plan for that. It's just going to happen. You just get ready to go for it. Cool. And then point 5, these are really the steps. It's like, just go out and tell the story. It's like, how do you tell the story to as many people as possible? You, yourself, your, through marketing. Just tell the story, tell a narrative. People don't buy products. People, buy solutions that solve problems. They don't talk about your product, talk about the problem, talk about the solution, and talk about it all day. When you pitch to people, again, problem. When you go to market, problem, solution. And once you feel like you've got a good base of that, the story should be pretty easy to tell that. Make sense?
Easy, too easy.
It gets harder when you learn more, because you start to overthink it. It's like you sort of, at school, you do this, you go to uni, you work some jobs, you think it's more complicated, you come back and you're like, I don't know, I imagine a lot of the founders or people that come talk, like, just keep it simple, focus, and everything comes together. And be consistent, I always say, like, good days lead to good weeks, lead to good months, lead to good years. And that's sort of my mindset, is like, when someone's like, oh, why not push today, or why not take it easy today, or why have a chill period, or why not listen to the speaker and mess around type thing. It's like, because good hours lead to good days, and it adds up. If you're just 30% or 50% more onto it all the time, you're going to get there so much faster on everything. And that's my general motion. It's like what I tell everyone in my team and my company is, you hold high standards always. You're just going to perpetually improve and innovate and be faster than companies. I mean, was that Amazon's motto? It's like be 1%. Well, a lot of companies like be 1% better each day, or try and find that 1%. You don't have to solve it, but just always be on and try to be better around that. But yeah, so my general rule of thumb, mistakes are good. Try and find them. Try and get over them quickly. You can't sit behind your desktop the whole time. Get out there, speak to people, try and build something. Consistency is key. And the moment of perfect decision just never doesn't matter. You gotta make a decision, commit, move forward. The worst thing is not to make a decision and not to take action. Yeah. Otherwise, those are my candid thoughts on it. Any questions?
Can you, you'll have written a business plan at some point, like a formal sort of sit down, and, because I know you finance and all the rest of it, advice for writing a business plan, because obviously these are all very short, sharp. The business plan obviously has all the detail, which obviously all of this leads into. Advice on that?
Yeah, so again, I'd keep it really simple. Like it's not overthink it, and I would think about it in terms of like per function and break it out, and it's how does it support any of this, and how does it support your overall hypothesis of market. And go to finance. The way in which I do it is just I keep it one. It's the same with this. I keep a strategy doc, and then I have a Google sheet. And the Google sheet is like, I'm trying to be more savvy about it, but like my projection forecast that I'll do for the year, and I just write and I edit, and I change and it updates, and like here's my margin and here's where I think I'm going to grow into. And you just sort of forecast forward. You don't have to get it right. But it's like if I'm going to spend X on the date, I'm going to charge this. Here's my margin. How many of these do I think it would do? And just relay that out. And then over time, it's like, okay, you look at the numbers, where should I work on to try and get around this? So if you're writing a business plan, it's like, okay, I need to spend my time on operations because I need to source cheaper suppliers to be able to make a profit.
How do you find those costs? Because at the moment we're trying to sort of find out where our money will go into so we can make sure that we break even on every deal. But how do you discover those costs before you've even got them?
I think try and build an MVP, right? Like if you're trying to build the MVP and like, what do I need for this? It's like, I think general rule of thumb is like 2 or 3, try and source 2 or 3 options for something and then commit and go.
Yeah.
Like it's you can't build a finance plan unless you have an idea or like build into an MVP, but yeah, I would say like 2 or 3 options of your suppliers and then take the average of that or who you think's the best. Obviously don't pick the cheapest just because it's the cheapest. But
You probably don't have to research 90 like what Toby did to get his first, but he's done his research. Okay, so yeah, you do need to get a view of everything.
again, it's like the way I think about it is like you don't have to find the perfect supplier straight away. You just have to find a supplier, start it. It's like, okay, what works? Can we find a better one? And if you've got time to do 90 and you want to hustle and research, do it. But I think 3 of them is enough.
I was super impressed with
Yeah.
that when I found out.
Yeah.
Connor.
What sections of the business plan do you think investors will most focus on, or what sections we should add to it?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think at this stage, what investors will look for is they'll look at you individually, your passion for the space, and like how much you put to it. They're going to invest in you first and foremost. Like say there's a demo day, like I put money in. My decision on whether or not I invest in a business here would be based on today. Like I can get a read of this room and who's interested, who's what, and how they every little thing, and that's going to be what matters there. Separate to that, I think like it's going to be the validation piece. It's going to be like, okay, I went to market. Here's the problem I saw. Here's the feedback I got. Here's validation that it's a problem which I can grow into. And then down from there, I mean, the finance and the numbers. But the earlier stage you are, the less people care about the finances. As you grow into it, it doesn't. I mean, you can raise hundreds and hundreds. Some of our clients have raised $500 million, $1 billion, and they're not profitable businesses, right? Like it's they want to look at the finances, but I think it's solve out your product market fit within your plan, and then make sure the finances make some sense.
Other questions?
who thought they'd be further along than they are now?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
For me personally, I think I spent way too long in ideation. I had an idea and then I scrapped it, and then it just took me too long to get on something else. And eventually, I didn't even come up with something. I took from Bill and then partnered up with Sam, and that's what we're working on now.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
But just the time that was sort of
Yeah.
wasted from.
Yeah,
from
oh, I know, I don't necessarily say there's nothing wrong now with the fact that you are trying to take someone else's
Yeah.
vision and turn it into, because it's ultimately, might have been Bill's idea, but it's ultimately yours and Sam's IP that's going to take it to market.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with that. Just like the problem was
Yeah.
the amount of time I wasted.
Who spent too much time on that ideation phase? Well, not too much, is there too much? That's thought, yeah, and so, yeah, some people did think that'd be,
Yeah, it's almost like, here's the date, like, pick your best.
well, yeah, that was, tomorrow. That's it, yeah, then we're done. I know last Friday was pick it, or you
Yeah.
need to partner. And no, we all, and some partnerships that come out of that, which was what I had envisaged to begin with. Everyone wouldn't just be beavering away on their own, because it's really tough, so we've got some partnerships happening. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other question, or anything you want to know from them, Sam? Interested in?
I'm interested, who thinks they'll, like, who would rather have a successful business this year and do it like full-time next year and not like go to uni or whatever? Interesting.
Who's thinking about having both? Yeah.
Got it.
It's still quite a culture of,
Yeah.
I don't think we've got to the point yet where,
Yeah.
and I think Bill deals with a lot of students that actually get through their perhaps first little bit of uni and then tap out.
Mm.
It's not till then, obviously CJ spoke about he was, didn't rubbish his university time, but he's out the other end now and thinks, yeah, what was the, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that the new thing?
It's fun. I
Yeah.
mean, like it's Westlake prepares you well, and it's a little, what's the word, a little bit strict. So it's a good life experience in that sense. Whether it prepares you well for the workforce, I think is another question. But like, raise your hand if you want to study commerce. Okay, law. What else?
Engineering.
Engineering.
Unless it's in my industry, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I reckon you'll learn more doing this than, and this, you learn more practical stuff here than more in the workplace than a good degree of the uni.
And like Sam said, uni's an experience, especially if who's looking to move away to go to uni, cut the apron strings, leave Auckland. Yeah,
I wish I could.
do it. Instead of my mum.
Money pit.
Oh, I flat out the road. You know, Mr. Williams?
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, and then I worked here, remember?
And there the story there, the
Yeah,
recording would
yeah.
stop. Okay, anyway.
No,
Yeah.
that's not the cue.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so yeah, any other questions for them?
No, I think
It's interesting.
I mean, I was going to ask who's enjoying the program, but I don't know if I'll get an honest answer.
Well,
Is it what you thought it would be?
No.
Not a show.
No,
Yeah.
way better.
It's better.
Who thinks it's much better than what it was?
Oh, than what it was?
Or what they thought it would be?
who thinks it's about where it was pitched at? Perfect. Anyone think it's less than? It's not.
What about like the theory side of things? Is it like, who thinks it's too much? You're right.
No, please do.
I'm interested because like
Yeah, I am
on the
too.
foundation and like we talk about it a bit, but
Yeah.
obviously this is the
Sam's basically, like he's kind of the boss in a way. Well,
no.
dream on, but kind of.
No. Who thinks it's too much theory? Too much classwork.
Yeah.
I think
I think for the first 7 weeks we did a lot of theory because learning like the processes of a startup. I think now it's really starting to open up and get a lot of fruit.
Yeah, But I think that was valuable. Without that, a lot of people who hadn't already started their business or knew that kind of stuff would be way behind now.
Yeah.
Especially if you didn't take business studies in year 12. Like, this is like, who's took business studies in year 12? And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on.
It helped me.
Yeah, that's
a lot of very stuff.
There's about, and I think there's about, so there's 20 of them in total, I think there's about 6 or 7 who've done no business, and some people have done commerce after. Yeah.
I guess last question is, I'm interested in how many hours do you spend outside of school time on this? So like 0 to 5
Well, like per day or per week?
per week? 0 to 5, okay. What about 5 to 10 hours a week? Over 10? Yeah, I mean, like, that's probably just gonna dictate who does well. The people that got their hands up at the end, like, it's just, if they haven't figured it out, they're gonna figure it out soon, and they're probably gonna get quicker than everyone else. So, I don't know, I get it's a class, and I get it's other things, but it's a pretty cool opportunity. And, if I was in your shoes, I'd be hustling to try and get something set up.
Okay, any other questions for Sam while we've got him?
When you do marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In your sort of side of marketing, you said that you sort of just help businesses what? Like
So we like get it. We actually, because we're a fractional team, we execute on a fair amount of it. So it's like we set up the the messaging, we can do some of the branding creative, but then we're like, how the hell do we get you customers? So like for a company like ClickUp, have you all seen Monday.com's ads?
Yeah.
So
annoying.
we work against Monday.com's biggest competitors. We actually spend more than we manage their paid search budget, which is $5 million a month. And what's that, 60 million a year. So we execute on that for them, and do things like that for different clients. Like for Reddit, they have a real specific thing where it's their marketing operations. They can't track when an advertiser comes in correctly, where they come from. So we go in and like help them fix up the tracking portion of that. So it's sort of where it depends. They need assistance.
And I've got a huge number of great marketing people, not Sam's not, but a huge number of great marketing people coming in next term from a real range of backgrounds in marketing. Yes, we haven't hit the marketing finance side. Yeah. Okay, right. Oh, Connor, last one.
Because you're in marketing, what would you think is the most effective marketing strategy?
I mean, once you tell a story, you mean like picking a channel?
Yeah, like whether you go to radio, internet, word of mouth, just posters, something like that.
Two parts. You want to build a brand or you want to drive direct customers. Depends where you are. Customers, then it's slightly different. Eventually you got to build a brand. Build a brand long term is the most efficient way to do it. Getting customers, lead acquisition, no one knows where to go. What you do is you set up as many quick tests across different platforms, as small a budget as you can, get feedback, iterate. So if we get a client on board that hasn't done it, we're like, okay, LinkedIn, Google Ads, Facebook, whatever, we set it up. Now they'll play with a bit more budget, test them all out, see where you get customers from. My part within lead generation is, there's two types of people online. There's people that are looking for your product, that want to buy it, and there's people that are your target persona. So it's like, how do you find the people that are actively looking for what you're doing? Search, review platforms, communities. Those are the people that are most likely to buy it first. So it's like, put brand awareness aside, lead generation, then go for the places where people are actively, because only like 1% of the market wants your product at any one point. So it's how do you find those people? So it's usually like spin up paid search, find community. If you want to do it for free, get in communities and find those type of groups, and that's where I would do it.
So again, it's that whole idea of being lean and agile. Do it quickly. Do it, and go from there and build from there like an onion. Build the way up. Okay. All right. We'll call it a day. I'm sure if Sam's got questions, he'd be happy for either me to filter them through, rather than them all bombarding you at once. Jackson.
Yeah, so just on behalf of the boys here today, we'd like to thank you for coming in. I'm sure all of us have learned something new that we can take into our own business. Just to say thank you, it was total appreciation for you here.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.